You always think the world will give you some kind of warning before everything falls apart. Some sign that tonight is different from any other. But the truth is, disaster doesn't announce itself. It comes quiet. It comes cold. And sometimes, it knocks on your door. It was the middle of October, just after midnight. I was alone in my grandfather's cabin, miles from the nearest town. I'd driven up there to get away from everything. My job, my divorce, the endless buzz of the city chewing through my sanity. The cabin was old, smelled of cedar and dust, and creaked like it was constantly exhaling. But it was peaceful. Until the knocking started. It wasn't loud, just 3 soft taps against the front door. I froze, the cup of tea in my hand trembling just enough to send a ripple through the surface. I wasn't expecting anyone. There were no neighbors, no nearby campers, no cell service. The second knock came louder, closer. I don't know why, but I suddenly felt wrong. Like the world had taken a step sideways. Like something had slipped through a crack that had never been there before. I approached the door slowly. The porch light was broken, so I couldn't see anything beyond the glass pane. Just darkness. Then I heard it. A voice, high-pitched, delicate. "Please let us in. It's so cold." Children. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. Who lets children wander through the forest at night? Who sends them? My hand hovered near the doorknob, but I didn't touch it. "How did you get here?" I called out. Silence. Then another voice, this one lower, but just as childlike. "We're lost. We don't know where our parents are." I reached for the flashlight on the table, switched it on, and angled it toward the window. The beam caught 2 small figures standing on the porch. Kids. At first glance, they looked normal. Pale skin, dark clothes, no shoes. But then they turned their faces up to the light, and I swear to you, I've never seen anything like it. Their eyes. They weren't eyes at all. Just pools of white. No irises, no pupils, just blank, gleaming, empty sockets. I dropped the flashlight. They didn't flinch. "We're hungry," one of them whispered. "Please, let us in." I didn't say a word. I just backed away slowly and locked the door. Then I locked the deadbolt. Then I pulled the dresser in front of the door for good measure. The children didn't move. They just stood there, watching. That was the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even blink. Every so often I'd creep to the window and peer through the side of the curtain. They were still there, those 2 white-eyed children, standing perfectly still on the porch. They didn't speak again. They didn't knock. They just watched. And even through the glass, even without moving, I could feel them looking through me. At around 3:43 a.m., they vanished. 1 second, they were there. The next, gone. I checked the porch. Nothing. No footprints in the dirt, no marks, no sound of them running off into the woods. Just empty space and the whisper of wind through the trees. You'd think I'd feel relieved. I wasn't. The next morning I considered driving into town, but when I turned the key in the ignition, the truck wouldn't start. I checked the engine. The battery was gone. Not disconnected. Gone, like someone had lifted it clean out. I should have left then. Walked if I had to. But I told myself it was probably animals. That the kids were just kids with some weird disease or condition. But I knew better. Deep down. The second night they came back. I was sitting in the living room, rifle across my lap, all the lights on. That's when I heard it again. Tap. 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 Not at the front door this time. At the window. I turned my head slowly. There they were. Faces pressed up against the glass. Smiling. Too wide. Too still. My flashlight was in my hand before I knew it. I shone it on them, hoping they'd back away. They didn't. Their skin seemed even paler now, like something drained of blood, waxy and artificial. Their eyes glowed under the beam, not from reflection, but from something within. Something alive. The little girl opened her mouth. and even through the window, I could hear her whisper, "Just let us in. You're lonely. We could stay with you. Forever." I backed away. The rifle in my hands felt like a toy. Then the power went out. Just like that. Every bulb, every hum of electricity, dead. The flashlight flickered. Then it too went out. I sat in the dark, frozen, listening to the soft tapping. I stayed like that until sunrise. After the second night, something changed inside the cabin. I don't mean something physical. I mean something wrong. It felt like the place had soaked in the presence of those children like old wood absorbing water. Every sound, every shadow, every breath of air felt like it was watching me. I didn't open the door again. I nailed boards over the windows. I lit candles and kept the rifle loaded and close. Still, I wasn't safe. It started with the whispers. At first, they came just after dark. Soft voices fluttering through the walls like moths. I'd freeze and listen, convinced I was imagining things. But they grew louder, more confident. And they knew things. Things I never told anyone. "You miss her, don't you?" A voice, just behind my ear. It sounded like my ex-wife, like the way she used to sound before things got ugly. "You were going to propose here, weren't you?" That was my grandfather, dead for 10 years. The voices became a parade of the dead and the damned. People I knew, people I didn't. Some of them crying, some of them laughing, and sometimes the voices were children. "We saw you cry last night. You're scared. It's okay. Let us in. We'll make the fear go away." The cabin was no longer mine. It belonged to them, or whatever they were. On the third night, they didn't knock. They walked across the roof. I heard the light creak of footsteps, bare feet, tiptoeing slowly overhead, then running, then scratching. I aimed the rifle at the ceiling. The candlelight flickered madly. Something laughed from inside the chimney, too deep and gravelly to be a child, but too small to be anything else. I grabbed my grandfather's journal from the bookshelf, hoping to distract myself. He was a paranoid old man, filled these pages with drawings of symbols, herbs, notes about forest spirits, and pale visitors. I used to laugh at it. I'm not laughing anymore. One drawing caught my eye. 2 children, hand in hand, their eyes wide and white, with the words written below. Never let them in. Not even once. Not ever. Once seen, they never leave. On the 4th night, something began moving beneath the floorboards. I hadn't stepped into the basement since I arrived. It always felt off. My grandfather had sealed the old wooden door shut with iron nails and scratched some strange symbols into it. I'd thought he was mad. Now I think he was the only sane one left in our bloodline. That night, around 2 a.m., I heard something breathing down there. Slow, wet, labored, like something with too many lungs and not enough skin. I pressed my ear to the floor and heard whispering from beneath, in the children's voices. We're already inside. No doors left. You dream of us even when you're awake. I lost it. I grabbed a crowbar and yanked the basement door open. The darkness hit me like a wave. Not just lack of light, but depthless black. It smelled like rot and something much older. Like the grave of a god that had been buried before humans ever existed. I turned on the flashlight. It worked this time. I wish it hadn't. The stairs were slick with some kind of mucus. At the bottom, I saw the shapes. Dozens of them. Small. Pale. Crouched in the corners, heads tilted at wrong angles. They weren't just 2 anymore. There were more. White-eyed children, silent and twitching, as if something inside their skins didn't quite know how to wear human form. One of them looked up at me. It smiled, its mouth open too far, far enough to tear. "We've been here a long time," it whispered. "Your grandfather tried to stop us. He failed." I backed up the stairs, but something cold wrapped around my ankle. I looked down. A hand. Gray. Dead. Child-sized. I screamed and kicked free, slammed the door, nailed it shut, then burned the nails with a lighter for good measure. They didn't come up, but they didn't need to. The whispers didn't stop. They multiplied, in every wall, in every pipe, even in my head. By the 5th night, I had stopped sleeping, but somehow, I still dreamed. I'd close my eyes for a second, just to blink or breathe, and suddenly I was standing in the woods, barefoot and shivering, the trees around me whispering in a voice that sounded like my own. The dreams all began the same. I'd hear footsteps behind me, small, careful. Then I'd see a light, a single lantern glowing faintly in the distance. I'd follow it. I don't know why. I had to. It was like something inside me was hooked and being reeled in. Every time I reached the light, it turned out to be one of the children, holding the lantern with a hand that bent the wrong way. Then I'd wake up screaming, gasping, only to find myself back in the dream again. Looped, trapped. The cabin, the woods, the porch, the basement, everything bleeding together. I didn't know what was real anymore. The children had found a way in, even though I'd never opened the door. They didn't need doors. They needed weakness, and I had plenty of that. On the 7th day, I found something on the porch. A photo. Old, black and white, curled at the edges. It showed my grandfather as a young man, standing with 2 small children. The same children. White eyes. No expression. No shoes. The back of the photo read, "Never let them in again." Again? My grandfather hadn't just known about them. He'd met them. Maybe even survived them. Barely. And now they'd come back for me. That night, the radio turned on by itself, crackling static. Then a voice. Mine. Let them in. Let it end. Let it be quiet. I laughed, or cried, or both. I don't remember. I was losing time. I was seeing them in the mirrors now, in puddles, in the grain of the wood, every pattern, every flicker, every sound. Them. I didn't plan to give in, but I did. On the 8th night, they knocked again. Only once. Software, I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then a sound I hadn't heard before. A child crying. It wasn't eerie. It wasn't ghostly. It sounded real, heart-wrenching. Gut-level sorrow. I couldn't help it. My hand moved to the door. "You can't save them," I whispered. "You're not real." But something inside me, the part that still believed in goodness, in hope, reached for the handle. The crying stopped instantly, and a small, calm voice said, "You just did." I opened the door, and they were gone. No children, no fog, just stars above, and silence so deep it rang in my skull. I waited. An hour passed, then 2. Still nothing. It wasn't over. I knew it wasn't. But something had shifted. I closed the door and turned. That's when I saw it. On the wall. A message scratched deep into the wood in jagged childlike writing. "You let us in." I dropped the flashlight. I ran to the mirror above the fireplace. And I saw myself. My eyes. White. It's been 3 months since anyone's heard from me. You might find this journal. You might think it's all a story, a breakdown, a delusion. But if you find the cabin, and it's night, and you hear a knock, don't open it. No matter what they say. No matter how lonely you are. No matter how much you want it to end. Because once you see them, once you know they exist, they're already inside.